How do, folks? How you doing? Just a quick one. I think maybe we might have a little bouncing session. I was having a listen to Dell this morning, and the fella knows what he's talking about. I mean, everybody knows what I think about protesting and protesters, and the fact that they're not just not doing anything, they're counterproductive. They believe at least they're doing something, but they're not. They're actually working for the man, doing his bidding. And Dell was absolutely right what he was saying, and I've said it myself before. You march down to Westminster and drag the fuckers out or swing them from the balconies for treason. You don't fucking protest. Now, if you are gonna get on the side of action, that's what you need to do. He evidenced this morning on his phone call to the police that the police aren't working for you. They're not, and it's about time folks realise that. They're really not, and they never have been. They're there to protect the so-called elite, the ones that really run this world. They're there to protect them from us. And the way they do that is by keeping some sort of law and order. Order, not law, but as we're told, law and order. We see the police do certain things, we see them not doing other things. That should really tell us. Now, when they're chasing the drugs, when they're chasing this, that and the other, it's because that's the agenda. They can pump millions and millions and millions into kicking somebody's door off for 2 plants of weed and feel justified and vindicated. And the people are stupid anyway, so the people all cheer it. Yay, look, the drugs off the street. It took that medicine away from people because they won't allow anybody to realise that it is en masse. They're not ever going to let you. Sorry, I've got my attention elsewhere at the minute as well. The ambulances are trying to get past. So basically, what we've got is a police force that are protecting the elite. They give the illusion of protecting the people because part of keeping that order is keeping people in line. And that would be you guys, as you're out there doing things, they'll come and keep you in line. So you go to protest, and in the guise of your safety, they can come and kick the living shit out of you with sticks and using gas and electricity and all the sort of things that you'd be sent to prison for 20 years for using. But somehow, most folks have cheered this shit on, like the knife crime that they've just spent the last few years drilling into folks, just so people can think it's disgusting if somebody has a penknife. Now, if you pulled out a fucking little penknife to cut the tab off something in the street, the whole world would go into a fucking heart attack, wouldn't they? And the police would be called. Why? Because they've created that. That's the Parliament playing with the police to get them to enforce bullshit. Now, I've always had a fucking penknife. I've got a hell of a knife collection. I've collected knives all my life. Never stabbed anybody. And as far as I know, the only person I've ever cut is me. Accidentally, of course. But accidents happen. And there's another thing. I'll bounce now. Accidents. There's another thing. They negated accidents. There's no accidents in the world anymore because literally everything has to have a liability attached to it. Somebody has to be liable. So you can't have an accident. An RTA used to be called a road traffic accident. It's not anymore, is it? It's an incident now because you can't have accidents. They're not allowed because if it's an accident, it implies that nobody's at fault. And oops, that was an accident. Or maybe I was slightly at fault, but it was accidental. There was no intentions. Let me make it right. All's good. You can't make it right anymore. It's not about making it right. You have an accident. You make it right with the fella or the woman that you fucking bumped into. And the police still need to take you through a court and then do you for driving without due care and attention, reckless driving, or whatever other thing they want to throw at you. Making a video whilst travelling under your rights to travel. Whatever, they just need their little claims because they're doing business, they're conducting business, and it is fucking business. It is business which requires your consent to do that business. And there we go, we bounce again. Let's go into consent. make me thirsty. So consent. This, excuse me, this country is absolutely ruled and governed by your consent. You that are shouting, I don't consent, the chances are you do. You just don't know you are doing. The fucking 99.99%, I can count on this hand those that just don't consent and know how not to consent. So when folks say, I don't consent to this, I don't consent to that, you're consenting. You're consenting. You can't say one thing and do another thing. If you're going to not consent, you need to not consent. That means don't go along with any of the bullshit. None of this, oh, well, just to keep the peace and just because of that. And oh, they said they was going to do this. How often do I hear it? I hear it all the fucking time. Folks need to not consent. And not consent in their own words as well. Stop looking for templates. Do you know in your own head what you're not consenting to? Write it down without the swear words. You don't have to be articulate. You don't have to be trained in the law. You don't have to have had multiple years of studying the law to write something down. Write down what you're not consenting to. Write down what you think and what you feel. And then when you've finished writing it, do your due diligence. Rather than just say, that'll do, send it off, whatever, fuck it. Now start looking at what you've wrote. And you can get, I can send anybody a fucking great list of maxims of law. And you just go through your maxims and you say, I don't consent. Well, put it in the form of a maxim. Look down your maxims, find the I don't consent maxim, bang that in there, and so on and so forth with what you say, and go down it. And fill it with some absolutes. Put your maxims in brackets and write at the top of your page, plain simple English, plain simple counting systems. You need your maxims in brackets because you need to remove them from the page, but you are putting them in there. And that way, by the plain simple English, plain simple counting systems, what you're actually doing is removing any right of theirs to imply something else, as for legalese and such like. One word has one meaning when it's plain simple English, plain simple counting systems. They can't attach a different meaning to it, and that meaning is interpreted by you. End of story. So they can't play with the legalese. There's many things you can do, but stop looking for templates, because one thing that I've learned throughout all my time of writing notices, I wrote loads and loads, so fucking many notices, and I was always writing them from the perspective of the guy or gal that I was writing it for, and each one was individual, and they weren't templates. I've written templates for others to use, and they use these templates, and then you get multiple folks sending the same thing in. Well, the reader's just going to go, oh, I read that one last week, yeah, I read, oh fucking hell, that's two of them today. And imagine how that goes. It's not giving the impact, and it doesn't say anything, because as soon as you're saying what somebody else has said, they're just going to screw it up. So if you're not going to consent, you need to do it properly. Now, that's basic not consenting. You want to not consent to your vaccines, you got to fucking tell them. Tell Matt Hancock you don't consent to the vaccines. You want to not consent to any of the bullshit, you've got to tell them. If you want to revoke all your contracts, rescind them all, and a lot of folks out there say claim the sovereignty. You're not claiming anything, you're already sovereign. You're evidencing your sovereignty. Now that's a totally other story. Then you need to get right into that, and that's something I've been doing for quite a while. I did for myself. I travel under my rights to travel, and in fact I have my own plates on my motor now, which I've gone through all the process of evidencing properly. So what's on mine is not theirs, and nobody's got any claims to anything with me. But that's through a full rescission of all contracts, and that's where that leads to when you pursue further from evidence in your sovereignty. You're already standing as sovereign. These acts and statutes do not apply, and I don't care who wants to say they've tried this, that or the other. They ain't fucking tried what I've done, because I'm evidence, I'm proof of what I do. I don't do for anybody else what I haven't done for myself, and as far as my motor's concerned, it is totally fucking free and clear. It's mine and nobody else's. So if anybody wants to lay any claims at all, they're going to fail miserably. And I believe they know that, because I get left the fuck alone. So as with everything else, if any claim does come through, I send it on to one of my trustees, tell them to deal with it, and then I notify whoever's sent the claim to get in touch with the trustee. Not me. Not me. And that's it. It goes away. It goes away. I'll tell you quickly what prompted me to, as we bounce again, what prompted me to evidence my motor. Because I'd already evidenced it as in the private, and there was no contracts attached to it. Everything was honky-dory. 8 months I've been travelling around on my rights to travel, and like I've told many people, I don't do it in a banger. I don't say I'm going to chance this shit and just spend 200 quid in a banger. It's my motor. So I've been doing this all this time, and then all of a sudden, out the blue, a couple of weeks ago, a V5 logbook came through in the corporate name, trying to attach to me. It's like, wow. So immediately Julie Leonard, the CEO of DVLA, was put under notice, huge notice. This was fraud, absolute fraud, and a blatant fraud as well. I need to see that signed in wet ink signature. I need to know who initiated this contract, and where they believe their authority derives from for just writing a unilateral contract and sending it out and expecting me to fucking abide by it. So they're in an awful lot of trouble. I've got quite some claim going for them there, but it did make me realise, if they think they're going to play these games, let's just deal with it totally. So the Transport Minister, the DVLA, Police Commissioner, the police, my trustees, which are the top levels of the judiciary and the government, have been notified of the motor's status now, and its new designation, which is the designation I put on there, a mark which is purely there for those to identify it as private and not as their property. End of story. No business of theirs, and I have no need for their services. If I had need for their services, I'll give them a wave and a shout. Until then, they're not in my life, and I should imagine they'll stay out of my life now. There's prosecutors have been dealt with at every level. It's been dealt with. The Secretary of State's been dealt with. Attorney General's, even the Lord Chief Justice has been served multiple notices, and in acquiescence has defaulted and accepted, all within the affidavits of truth. You only get so long to rebut point for point an affidavit of truth if you want to say it's not right, and you must rebut it point for point. And after that time, it does become truth and judgment in law. Now, I've told folks a lot of times, use your affidavits. I was talking to Nita this morning. Absolutely love Nita to bits. She's fantastic, and she gets it. Woke as fuck, and absolutely gets what's going on. Writes her own notices. We have chats, and always love the chats. Always intelligent conversations with somebody who absolutely knows what she's talking about. And absolutely, you serve these fuckers. I'm praising you that much, Nita. I've bounced into oblivion. I don't even know where we was going then, so I'm not going to rewind. But bottom line, serve notices. Oh yes, get them in acquiescence. And I was saying to Nita that all we're doing basically is turning around on them what they do to us, because we're living our lives in acquiescence to them, and when we're only in this shit because we've acquiesced to them. So when you start serving affidavits of truth, they cannot play with these. You imagine, here's truth, this is truth on paper, now they have to rebut it. Well, how do you rebut the truth? You can't rebut the truth. So if they wanted to play with an affidavit of truth and rebut it point for point, what the fuck? That would be blatant lying. They're in an awful lot of shit immediately, because you only said it because it's truth. Don't put things that you think in an affidavit. You do your own due diligence. You hear something, you find out, and you evidenced for yourself, for your own good, that is the truth before you write it and before you send it to anybody. But that's not hard to do, because even Google tells you this shit. It's all out there, literally all out there. So you do your own due diligence, you put these notices in, you put in there so much fucking truth that they could not possibly respond to it, because there would be an absolute dishonour immediately if they lied in a affidavit of truth, and you could rack them over the coals in absolute. So you've got them in acquiescence. 28 days later, it's now become truth and judgment in law. At law, should I say. Now, what I like to do personally, you don't need to do this. You could just stop at that. But I'm a pedantic fucker. So I'm at that junction when we're after Rubberneck. So I'll send them an opportunity to cure on it, and I'll give them a little bit more time. I'm being very generous and giving them plenty of opportunities. So you give them that little bit more time to sort this shit out and respond, which they don't do, and then you get them in dishonour by defaulting them. You serve them a default notice. You're now in default on such and such a date. You got served notice on such and such a date. You got served an opportunity to cure. I now find you in default. Blah blah blah. You've got them. You can leave it there, or you could put it through county court and get a judgment on it. And you only want judgment on that which you've served. You want a judgment on the affidavit of truth being served. You don't want to try and get money. You don't want to put your fee schedule in yet, although you've served them a fee schedule and you've told them that at any point you can issue an invoice, fees are incurring, and it's payable within 7 days. Well, if you've put that in your notices, then you've put your notices in to a county court for a judgment on. What the county court is actually making a judgment on is, has an affidavit been served? Yes. Has it been responded to? No. Does it stand truth and judgment in law? Yes. And that's all the contents in there. Well, now your fee schedule stands in law as well. You've got case law. Now that case law you can use to get your fee schedule. You can use to beat them over the fucking head with for what they've just tried to do to you. They can never. How does it even work? You go into court with the affidavits of truth and you put them on the table anyway, as long as you've served them to them 24 hours before you go into court. A true court, not a magistrate's. You wouldn't walk into a magistrate's. But that's truth and judgment in law right there. Now, if they don't wish to accept them and they tell you they're not accepting them, well, I'd personally stand there and tell them that's fucking treason. I'm not giving them a choice, that's truth. If they're going to deny the truth in a court of law, that would be treason. And everybody's off their fucking oaths. You've got the lot. But you don't need to take it that far. If you want to put it through county court, you get your case law. Now, the point of case law, how are they ever going to take you into court? You just serve them notice on case law, and it would go away because they couldn't take you into court, because they know damn well your defence is absolutely undefendable against. Bang. How do you counter that defence? Case law. So and that's their realm. They've lost it before you even started. Basically, let's rewind a little bit. As I've been saying all along, folks are spinning you in circles. Folks are trying to tell you this is really difficult. I'm living it, and I've been living it for a while. And yes, I know loads and loads, and I'm sorry about that, but at the same time, I know nothing at all. I've got a mind full of information, but the mind isn't big enough and there isn't time enough to have all the information that everybody else tells you need. You don't. I had this information because I started at the beginning not knowing this. I've come to this conclusion and I changed my life. I adapted the way I was doing things to actually live this way. So this is what I do, and it is not as difficult as you think. If you are serving your intentions and your free will up ahead of time, which I do, literally anything anybody could possibly think of bringing a claim on, I've already served my intentions of doing it and giving anybody a chance to rebut my right to do it. Nobody's rebutted my right to do it. Now my intentions stand. I'm a free will and it stands in law. So when anybody says you can't do this, you can't do that, I don't care what it is. I don't care if it's a legal issue. Don't exist. I only deal with the law. I don't care if it's land registry. I don't care if you want to put an extension on your fucking house and you've been daft enough to ask for somebody else for permission for it. You didn't need permission. You didn't need permission. You needed to fucking vocalise or articulate your intent to do what you're doing. Give them an opportunity to rebut your rights to do it, point for point, and then bang in there a 20-point DSAR asking them an awful lot of questions about their rights and authorities. And it would absolutely be finished. You could not be stopped, and I don't care who says what. If you do your due diligence, you have the rights and authority to live as you wish. You're not doing your due diligence. You're not living in your own accord. You're doing what you want to do belligerently against the consent you've given them to rule you. If you're not prepared to remove that consent that they have to rule you, you are not consenting. Boing. Mine's right back there. So anyway, I've been a proper bouncy one today, and I'll probably finish it there because I could keep bouncing, but let's have just a quick one today and see how it goes. Maybe it all depends what people want. Tell me what you want. I'm not going to, and I'll tell you for why. I'm not going to delve deep into the deep into law, and I'm not going to do it anymore. And the reason being is because, for one, it goes over most folks' head, and I try to keep it as simple as possible. So I try not to talk in a manner that'd spin you around in circles or leave you thinking, what does that mean? I don't want to do that. I want folks to learn this shit. And for two, if I talk deep law, then what that ensues, masses of folks coming to me saying, can you help me with this? Can you help me with that? And 4 heart attacks in a year is enough. It genuinely is. I'm still trying to recover, and every time I get dragged back in, I get stressed out and my health goes back downhill again. And I'm sick and tired of it yo-yoing, to be honest, because I know by taking all that stress out of my life, I can start healing, start getting better. And it's only from taking other folks' stress on again that fucking puts me right back there. So I've got to stop taking other folks' stress on. And I'm happy to tell anybody anything at all. I was just actually discussing about people who charge to talk. Absolutely bizarre. It baffles me that anybody would actually pay somebody for a conversation anyway, or anybody would have the balls to ask somebody for money to have a conversation. We only have so many hours in the day. I'm afraid you have to say, I can't, I ain't got time, or I'll schedule you for as soon as I get a chance, I'll give you a call, like I have to do, unfortunately, because my entire days are made up of either writing or speaking on the telephone, the occasional video when it's always, as you know, travelling, because I ain't got time to just take time out of my day to make a video. So it's always when I'm on my way somewhere. So if you ain't got time to talk to somebody, you have to say it how it is. But you can't be charging folks for chatting, as far as I'm concerned. I now charge folks for one thing and one thing only, and it is fair remuneration for the amount of work that I've put in evidencing sovereignty. And I do absolutely charge from the work that I put in to prepare the paperwork for somebody to evidence their own sovereignty. But the reality is, I don't get that money. Everything that's been took in is in a pile waiting to be used for the community of what we're doing, and I don't chip in. What will be used out of it will go towards things for the community, but it's not for my pocket. So anybody thinks I'm out of order for charging for something, no, unfortunately that's my graft. I've had 4 heart attacks to get to where I am and to deal with everybody else's shit for free. And when you're doing something for free, you have a lot of needy folks, a lot more than you can fucking handle, one after the other, and all tell their friends that it's you that fixed their shit, and they think it's your pleasure to take on everything else that they give you to do. And it doesn't work that way. It's all graft. And now if I asked any of you to come and do hard graft for me for 4 or 5 hours, you're all going to tell me to go fuck myself. that's what everybody asks me to do. But it's not just that 4 or 5 hours, because when they get a response from that, it just gets sent straight to me. Oh, they've responded, here you go. So that's another couple of hours responding to that one, and then later down the line if another response. So you're hooked into a situation. So you would be paying thousands and thousands for each situation somebody helped you with if you was going to a solicitor or something like that. So when somebody does it for free, it just gets absolutely abused, and I know, because 4 fucking heart attacks in a year. So reality is, you can't take on that sort of stress and pressure. Everybody's hassle, everybody's handing you, when's mine, why you know that, yeah, what's up with this, or I want you to do this with it, and then they want their particulars putting into it, and it's like, hang on a minute, no, do you want it fixing or not? But it all had to stop. So all I have time for is obviously chatting to folks, which I do quite a lot of. Already had 2 calls this morning, so we're already a couple of 3 hours into conversations today, a video. But yeah, anyway, keeping it busy, bounce, keeping it busy. But the reality is, that is the only thing I've ever fucking charged for, and the funds go for a hell of a cause. And to be honest, if anybody don't think it's worth it, do it yourself. I'm happy to tell you how to do it. I'll tell anybody how to do it for free. Don't mean that you've got that to do it. I'm sorry, that's the bit where you've acquiesced, not learning the law. You'll have to learn a little bit. If you want to do something as deep and as heavy as that, you are going to have to learn. If you can't, you're going to have to find somebody to do it for you. But I promise you, nobody's doing that for now. It's a huge undertaking, and it's a huge responsibility afterwards, making sure you know how to stand on that shit. Because you can't just do that sort of paperwork and leave somebody high and dry. You have to be there for them, to teach them if they wish to learn. I have, believe it or not, had some folks come to me, had me do the work, and I've explained, you've got to learn some shit, and I've got a group there just for evidenced sovereign souls to come into to learn things, and then they'll go through the process and then just do nothing more, and the learning process is cut down by years, because everything's within the documentation. You only have to learn what's in the documentation that's already dealt with everything. But anyway, it's not a plug, because I do not ever plug it. I don't tout for business. I don't care if people want it done or not. Everybody's under their own liability. I would much rather everybody wake up to this shit and learn how to do it for themselves. That is an absolute. If everybody woke up to the fact that they had to start putting the government and these agents of doom under notice to solve these problems, the problems would be solved. While ever you're protesting, you're working with their system, and like I said last time, the most ridiculous thing I've ever fucking heard of in my life, asking permission to protest, and even going as far as doing risk assessments for the protest. If folks can't wake up to this shit, Jesus Christ, come on, if folks can't wake up to that shit, that right there is all you need to know. And people singing praises of this fucking Corbyn fella, the brother of the politician, like you don't know, like somebody has to tell you. Fucking the brother of the guy who was just fucking going for Prime Minister. Seriously, is not good enough that you can't spot the fucking shills out there, you know, the natural ones with the bleach blonde fucking hair and highlights and fucking fake tits and fucking Botox lips, the natural nurse, and the David Icke's, who's been created over years and years and years for this very moment to be your saviour. You can't wake up to this shit. You can't wake up to the fact that they need your unrest to finalise what they want to do. You can't wake up to that shit. But you're woken to go and create the unrest that they need. Fuck it. You know, Summer, I'm talking to a brick fucking wall. Nobody's gonna wake up. I'll say this, and those that get it will get it, and those that don't. 144,000. That's all I've got to say. those that are woke will get that. Those that aren't are scratching their heads about now. Until you're prepared to wake up, you shouldn't be joining any bandwagons. You shouldn't be following anybody. You shouldn't be regurgitating bullshit. Anyway, folks, love you all. Even the assholes. Somebody's got to. I'll catch you all later. Have a good one. Ta-da.